and I had to get this one in. Obviously, this is why I'm here. So I probably won't be on too long with this one, but I just wanted to talk about it. Last week, if you guys were watching the channel, I had a pretty good back and forth going in regards to mythological Thor. I had a pretty good versus going Hercules, okay? And I still come up believing that Thor was far significant in terms of the feats that he actually accomplished. But there's a good argument for Hercules, and I'm not going to dismiss Hercules, and it's not because I don't like Hercules, and it's not because I don't like Greek mythology. So let's end all that. But today I want to match Hercules up against Gilgamesh, right? Or Gilgamesh versus Hercules. Whose feats were more impressive? Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be very transparent. Right off the bat, you can see I think that Hercules has a greater volume of deeds, but Gilgamesh's deeds are far more significant. Like, we can go through the 12 labors of Hercules, and we see some impressive feats. The Nemean lion, the Hydra. He captures the boar. He runs off and kills some of these birds. He rounds up these mares. He captures Cerberus. The rest, a lot of these are retrieval, right? A lot of these are retrieval. Cerberus is a capture. The boar is a capture. And driving off these Stymerian birds, okay, which are all great feats. But a couple of these 12 labors, we see he had a cleaning task, right, with the stables. He had to retrieve Hippolytus's belt, right, the cattle of Geryon, and the golden apples. These are all retrieve type of scenarios, okay. So not necessarily kills. So when I go and compare him to Gilgamesh, right, Gilgamesh's big tasks are, one, he kills the bull of heaven, okay? He kills the bull of heaven. So right off the bat, there's nothing on Hercules' list that rises to that level. In fact, if you took every single one of the creatures that Hercules captured or killed and massed them all into one creature, they still wouldn't be a scratch on the powerful hoof of the bull of heaven. So this is really what it is. If you guys remember the story of the bull of heaven, first Inanna steps to Hercules, spits her game, shoots her shot. He rejects her. She's not used to or happy with that. So immediately she's like, look, Pops, I need you to unrelease this bull of heaven. And everybody pauses because the bull of heaven is catastrophe embodied, right? This is all power. You can see where his hooves touch the ground. The earth itself splits apart, right? Now I know the Nemean lion had this, invulnerable hide that Hercules, he's still wearing it because it adds invulnerability. We know about the Hydra and the Hydra's massive power, how difficult it is to kill the Hydra with all these multiple heads. So I'm not joking when I talk about the power of the Hydra, or even with Cerberus, right? But here's the thing. None of those are cosmic level beings. None of them are even divine beings. These are all monsters who are earthbound. These are earthbound creatures. So that means that when the bull of heaven comes to earth and he's smashing and cracking the earth, they're going to die too. So what I'm trying to express is that the lion, the Hydra, Cerberus, these are all, even though Cerberus I think is a gatekeeper to the underworld, I think he's at the precipice of the underworld here, right? However, none of these are cosmic level beings. None of these are planetary level beings. None of these are beings that the gods use for wrath. That's what the bull of heaven was. He was literally the wrath of the gods, right? So defeating him requires more than just strength. Now, granted, he does this with his partner Enkidu, right? So it is a tag team effort. However, the magnitude of what they did dwarfs anything that Hercules ever accomplished. I'm just being really real with you guys on this one. This is a divine level being. This is sent by the gods himself. This is what they use to cause earthquakes and destruction and to rend the earth apart. So he is all that in one being. That is what he is. He is a walking catastrophe embodied in this bull body with this massive, muscle and horns and power in his hooves. So from that standpoint, I think the bull of heaven alone exceeds anything that Hercules does. Okay. And I want to point out that one of Hercules' flagship victories which is the Cerberus hound, right? The guard. There's later myths about how that same hound was killed by Perseus, right? That's a real myth, that he was killed by Perseus. So the fact that somebody else did that same, took that same task and killed him, that kind of reduces that feat itself down to, it was all right, wasn't great, wasn't Jordan dunking from the free throw line. So that's the first thing, is that the Cerberus hound, that feat itself would be duplicated by someone else. One of Hercules' other feats, which was holding up the earth, remember the whole situation with Atlas, where he holds up the earth for however long, Atlas was already doing that. So that's not an out of the box feat for Greek mythology. Someone else was already doing it, and that someone else, Atlas, is still doing it right now. So I don't see that feat as like, it's a great feat. I can't hold up the earth. I'm certainly not saying that, but I am saying that, it seems like some other people were capable of doing that too. That's all this I'm talking about, Gilgamesh's victories, and I haven't even talked about Humbaba. And Humbaba, who is again a divine guardian of the cedar forest, who was appointed by the gods. He spreads fear with his gaze, and he has a supernatural aura. He has strength. He has the strength of the sun god. This was like the very power of protection for this. This was an absolutely divine creature on no part. This was one of the most powerful creatures around, which is why Gilgamesh was like, I will slay Humbaba, right? I will make a name for myself by slaying this powerful creature, and then proceeds to slay that powerful creature. Even though I think it was actually a terrible thing that he did, I think that was one of Gilgamesh's big moral collapses, was killing this creature that was a protector. But again, he does it. And again, so we see the creatures that we're talking about that Hercules does, right, are all monsters, and you're great at killing monsters. This is not a monster killing contest, right? Gilgamesh literally is killing planetary threats or divine level creatures both times. So it's not a bunch of victories, but damn, how many times you got to knock out Tyson before we start saying that you're better than everybody else, right? How many times you beat Muhammad Ali? And that's essentially what Gilgamesh did. So just in between these two, and that kind of highlights why I would not compare Hercules to Thor, because again, Thor's dealing with planetary threats, cosmic level threats. Hercules simply isn't dealing with that level of threat. He's not asked to do those things, and he spends as much time cleaning out stables as he does having straight up fights with any powerful being. So, and there is no history of him like running through Olympian gods. He's had a couple of conflicts, but there's not a history of him like bodying, many of the Greek gods. In fact, I don't know of another story about that. So I just wanted to drop this home real quick. Now I got to slide out to that place they call work to handle some business, but this was on my mind, so I wanted to kind of get to it and talk about this matchup in light of the recent matchup we talked about with Thor. So anyway, hit the like, subscribe, step in later. I'll be back talking about some mythology after I get done with that thing they call work, and then